Starting. Hi, everybody. So I am here with my friend Art, and if you want to say hi.
Hello, everybody. We're here to talk about animation, the best animations, and probably some of the worst animations of 2015.
Yes, because I love animation. It's my favorite genre, even though it's not technically a genre, but it's my favorite style of movie making.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, shoot. Sorry. Turn that off. Okay. So yeah, I blog about Disney in particular, animation. I've reviewed the Disney canon on my blog, and I just love it. And so what we're going to do is we're going to go over all of the films kind of month by month, chronological as they were released. We're just going to talk a little bit about them, what we liked, what we didn't like, and overall, what do you think of the year in general as far as animation? Do you feel like it's been a strong year? Or?
I think the when you look at the biggest animations, it's usually what's coming out of Pixar or foreign animations, such as Ghibli or Ghibli. You might correct me on how you say that. And I think this year we had Inside Out, which I know was the Pixar movie that people preferred the most, and it was a really good movie, but it's not in my personal top 3. You know, like I think there's been other years where Pixar is like, oh man, they did release 2, which is incredible when you look at it. It's the first time that Pixar has released 2 movies. And then in terms of like foreign films, I know you saw the Kahlil the Prophet one. I was not able to, but I did see when Marnie was there. It's a very beautiful film, but it's not my favorite also Miyazaki film either. I believe Miyazaki did that one, if I'm not mistaken.
It's Yaka Hamada or something. I forget how to pronounce it.
The other guy who does the good stuff. But Ghibli, from Studio Ghibli, however it is.
Yeah, so we'll talk about them individually, but I'd say as a whole, I don't think that the bad ones were as bad as last year's bad movies. I mean, there's still just because I feel like the movies last year that were horrible weren't even competently animated. Like Legends of Oz. I don't know if you saw that, the Wizard of Oz sequel.
Yeah, that thing where they look like they were drawn with rose art. Yeah, I remember that movie.
Yeah, it looks like you could give honestly a grant to the community college and they would come up with something.
Well, the worst part was that they had such a great cast for that one.
I know.
The voice work was like, where you guys, it's like they movie 43'd them. I don't know what they did to swindle them to be in that movie, but yeah, I don't think anybody saw that movie.
It was painful, and I mean, it almost hurt my eyes to look at. I'm not being.
No, it was a bad movie.
It was really bad, and there was also a horrible one called The Hero of Color City. That was
the crayon. He was a literal
crayon.
Literally a crayon.
So bad. It's like a Toy Story with crayons, and it's so bad. So yeah, I would say that even the worst of the worst this year weren't as bad as last year, but I would say that last year I felt like the middle grade movies were better. Like I really liked Mr. Peabody and Sherman. I really liked the Penguins of Madagascar. I thought they were really funny, and I don't think you have that sort of like. I think that Penguins of Madagascar was a lot better than Minions, for instance.
I'll agree with you. Yeah.
So they're each year has their strength, but overall it's been a fun year. It's been a I like the fact that both in 2014 and 2015, we're getting more diversity in animation. And not only in studios, but also in the topics and in the styles that we're getting. You know, like last year you had the Book of Life, which was a different kind of culture and a different feel. And, this year we have The Prophet we'll talk about. We have when Marnie was there. We have, as much as I didn't like Home, we have at least has an African-American character, which is kind of cool. So I like that. It used to be when I was a kid, way back in the day, you'd be lucky you'd get 2 animated films a year.
Yeah.
You'd maybe get a Don Bluth and you'd get a Disney, and that's it. So, it's a real neat time to be an animation fan. So, all right. Well, with that said, we'll talk about our first masterpiece that came out in January. And this is from the mind of George Lucas. We got Strange Magic. And this was released on January 29th. And it was a huge commercial and critical flop. It's based on CG animation. It has a 16% on Rotten Tomatoes. I personally, in my review, gave it a D. And it's based on Midsummer's Night Dream, and it is a jukebox musical. What did you think of Strange Magic?
I did not see Strange Magic because at first I thought it was like a spinoff to Epic, and it turns out it wasn't a spinoff to Epic. I think I could put it in the words of George Lucas himself. He says that he no longer wants to make commercial films. He wants to make private films that he doesn't show anyone except himself and his friends. He should have started with Strange Magic.
I think that, I don't know this for sure, but I think this movie was kind of packaged in with the Star Wars deal. I think it was released by Touchstone. It wasn't released under anything. It wasn't even released under Disney Toons. Mm-hmm. You know, like last year's Planes, Fire and Rescue was no masterpiece, but at least Disney felt proud enough of it to put their name on it in Disney Toons. This was released as quietly as possible, and I think it's bad. Again, I would still think at least it's competently animated, unlike the examples from last year. The animation's not that bad, and the music, because it's a jukebox musical, the music isn't that bad. I mean, it's good songs, but the problem is that it's so on the nose that it becomes kind of groan-inducing. You know, it's like, oh, there's a character named Marianne. We're gonna hear, oh, Marianne. You know, come on, Marianne. You know, I just was waiting for the bad guy to sing Wild Thing, because he's a wild thing, and sure enough, he sang Wild Thing. Like,
that's George Lucas.
Yeah, and the thing I think I can pretty confidently say about George Lucas, he's incredible. I mean, he's given us so many great things for sure, but he does not know how to write female characters. Because you look at Padme, who is supposed to be strong, but she never does anything that's strong. I mean, in the prequels, I mean, she makes one speech and that's it, and she's just sort of fawning and making poor life choices. And I feel like there's this interview with George Lucas where he's talking about he wanted this movie to be made because he wanted an animated film about strong women. And it's like, did you see Frozen? Yeah. You know, it's like, did you see Frozen? I don't think, but because these female characters are so dopey. The script is so bad, and they're just dumb. And yeah, so it's not a good film. Although the vocal performances, the singing is actually pretty good. They got Kristen Chenoweth, they got Alan Cumming, they have some Evan Rachel Wood is in it, so they have some good singers. So that's good. But it's just so uncreative. I mean, it makes Happy Feet look like a masterpiece, because at least Happy Feet was somewhat creative in the songs.
They had George Miller.
That's right.
got him an Oscar too.
That's right. So anyway, so that's Strange Magic for you. I wouldn't, since you haven't seen it, I would not recommend.
Don't go to Redbox and get it. Got it.
No. Because it's not even so bad it's good. It's just not good. So, okay. So then in February, this is February 6th, we had the SpongeBob Sponge Out of Water.
Yeah.
And this was a CG, traditional, and live action, had elements of all three. And it has a 79% on Rotten Tomatoes. They got the original directors of some of the original series, Paul Tibbitt, Mike Mitchell. And I gave it a B in my review. So to me, that's actually a pretty good review. It was a B. The only thing that really annoyed me about SpongeBob is I thought the trailers were so deceptive, and the whole marketing campaign, because
the title.
And the title. They're only out of the water for 15, maybe 20 minutes of the movie. And, you know, it's just like, oh, that bummed me out, because here they had an opportunity to promote a 2D film and get people in the seats and get kids to be excited about it maybe a little bit. And I felt like that's my only real bone to pick with it. But what did you think?
I love the dolphin. the tribute dolphin that was there. That was like the one part that I was like, it's so over the top, but I don't know why. I liked it. I've never been the biggest fan of SpongeBob. Like, I like quoting SpongeBob, but it's not like, oh, SpongeBob is on, I'm going to watch it, or, oh, man, it's on Netflix, I'm going to binge on it. But again, it was an enjoyable movie for the dumb quotes that they say. I thought the dolphin was so over the top that it made me laugh.
Yeah.
But yeah, I said the same thing. I think I reviewed this. I can't even remember, but it was the fact that it's like, yeah, SpongeBob out of water at the end, boys and girls, and that was really it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just such a small part of the film, and it's I don't know. It felt like they almost had to tag that on to get the movie made and released. Like, you didn't even need it. But yeah, I agree. The dolphin was hilarious. I don't know, just almost the whole weird take on a Mad Max version of a
yeah, with the leather.
I thought was and like the I don't know, the apocalyptic outfits and the mayhem. I thought that was really funny, and got good voice performances. It's proof that you don't need celebrity voices to make a good comedy. I mean, I feel like DreamWorks should watch this movie because they load their movies with celebrity voices, and it's just not needed. If it's a good voice, who cares?
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, I don't think anyone went to see Home, for instance, because Jim Parsons was in it, or Rihanna. Maybe a few Rihanna, but
I don't know about you, but I went for J-Lo and J-Lo soundtrack. That's what I went for Home for.
That's right. I just think they're wasting, because they're still spending like
a lot of money.
$120 million, $130 million on these animated films, despite the fact that CG is supposed to be so much cheaper than 2D. And I think a lot of that goes to these celebrity casts that's just not needed. So, but I think that SpongeBob was a good example of that. Of course, you got Antonio Banderas in it, who was kind of fun, I thought. But it's not a great movie, but I enjoyed it for what it was. It was unpredictable and kind of out there. So I also didn't really watch the show because it was a little, I think it started in like 98.
Yeah, like right at the turn of the millennium.
And that's when I went to start at college. So I was a little past that. So, okay. So then the next film was in March 27th, was Home, which we've talked about. This was directed by Tim Johnson, and it is got a 46% on Rotten Tomatoes. It's CG animation, and I didn't care for this film. I gave it a D. I didn't like it. It had a lot of potential, and I think the animation is pretty cute in general, but I just felt like the story was so weak, and I felt like I don't know, it just didn't make any sense. Like, supposedly these aliens come in and abduct all the humans and move them all the way to Australia, but why would you want all of the humans all in one spot? And I just felt like it had really inconsistent characters. You know, like sometimes the characters were smart, sometimes they were stupid, sometimes they knew how to use human stuff, sometimes they didn't. And especially the girl Tip, who could have been a really good character, but I felt like she was really inconsistent. Like, sometimes she behaved like a teenager, sometimes she behaved like a little girl, sometimes, and she's had this like horrible trauma happen to her with her mother being taken and the whole all human beings being taken. And it seemed like the saddest thing in her life was that people were mean to her at school, you know? And it just ended up being kind of basically a road trip movie. And I felt like we didn't need Jim Parsons because it just was too Sheldon-ish. Like, I like Big Bang Theory, but it kind of became kind of grating, I felt like. And I don't know, just to me, it was like, oh, I didn't like it. But I don't know. What did you think of Home?
I'm going to quote my buddy Ash from the Captain Vita Show to sum up everything that you said. Captain Vita Show, go check him out. He's awesome. But he said, there's a difference between a kid's movie and a family film. Family films are what Pixar makes. Family films are those good movies that you can go, and that means everybody in the family, young and old, can enjoy it. A kid's film is fart jokes, and, you know, it looks nice, but it has the attention span of, you know, like, I don't know, like 10 seconds long, because that's all it is. It's just meant for kids, and kids will enjoy it. That's the difference between good animation, when it's just meant for kids or when the whole family can enjoy it. And the only thing I really enjoyed from Home, and I thought I was going to like it because I'm not a Jim Parsons fan, but I thought what he was doing with his voice was going to be funny until I saw it, and it was annoying. And it was the color scheme with it, because I was studying aesthetics at that time, and I was like, oh, look, the way that they coordinate, the cat is orange, and so is the slushy thing that the spaceship runs on, and she wears purple, and so is that, and he changes the same colors, and it looks nice with the color schemes and the shapes, what they use. It's a kid's film. It's like a little kid's film.
But it's not, because it's so morose. I mean, it's so sad. You think about the topics, and you have these moments that are really solemn, and so I didn't really feel like it is like a.
But they don't treat them seriously.
It's not like a Winnie the Pooh, where it's like gentle and sweet, for little kids, or even I'm trying to think of a good example of like a quality kids film. I know there's lots, but my mind is blank. But there's lots of nutty, kind of silly, even toilet humor kind of jokes. But I just felt like this was so sad that like it couldn't really be that just ridiculous kids movie. It's not like it's one of the Tinkerbell films, for instance, which are just kind of perky and happy, or a Barbie movie, that's just for kids. So I don't know, I just feel like it was a big miss from DreamWorks, and it was their only film last year, and they've been doing so badly that I was really hopeful that they would come up with something good. But and especially because I really did like Mr. Peabody and Sherman, and I really did like Penguins. I thought they were both solid
movies. They came out with The Croods as well, correct?
Yeah, and I like that too.
I think they were focusing on the Netflix TV show more than anything else, probably. That's why.
Yeah, probably. And they have Netflix How to Train Your Dragon series too.
Yeah, that too.
And maybe they're just, I don't know what happened with that one. I think because it started out with a book called The True Meaning of Smick Day, which I guess is a really good book. But my sister said at least it has almost no. The Peanuts movie. That's a movie that is a kids movie that's done right, but the adults can still enjoy.
Well, yeah, that's what makes it a family film.
Yeah, that's right. I don't know, but or Winnie the Pooh. Winnie the Pooh is a movie for little kids, but it's done well. I don't know, but I guess everything can't be Winnie the Pooh. Anyway, I was really disappointed in it. To me, I just didn't think it worked, and I felt like the ending was really lame with this like sort of secondary villain coming in, but like, oh, he's really misunderstood. And so, but it is animated pretty nicely, so I'll give it that. DreamWorks always does that. They don't have a badly animated film except for maybe Shark Tale.
I like Shark Tale.
You like Shark Tale?
It's a guilty pleasure. It's fun.
Okay, there you go. Okay, so the next that came out, this was May 22nd, and it is When Marnie Was There, and it was directed by, his name is Hiromasa Yonebayashi. Sorry, it's a hard name, but and he was the one who did The Secret Life of Arrietty. I don't know if you've seen that one, but and this got a 90% on Rotten Tomatoes. It's traditional animation, and I gave it an A on my channel. And I did really love it. I've actually seen it twice. I know it has some issues, but I liked that it was about this girl that is like, she has love in her life, but she doesn't feel it. And she's like dealing with some serious depression. And I thought that was very bold of Ghibli to sort of take on, this person, because I don't know. I felt like this year was like the year for animated films dealing with childhood mental health. Because you had Inside Out, you had Peanuts, where Charlie Brown's kind of depressed. Yeah. Then you had When Marnie Was There, and you have to accept a certain degree of magical realism for the story to work.
Which I'm okay with, because that's what the studio does.
Yeah, exactly.
I was actually expecting more, which is why I was a little disappointed at first. But then I realized what it was, and I thought about it more, and I was like, yeah, that was a pretty deep movie.
Yeah, and just the idea of sort of a family rescuing this depressed girl, I just thought was beautiful, and it definitely is. It definitely is a little bit it's a little slow at times. I think it could
definitely.
Yeah.
The amount of time she goes to cry in the by the boat and then leaves, and yeah.
And it is a little strange. I just say, like, I don't want to give too much away because if people do see it, but some of the stuff, I mean, I guess we shouldn't worry about spoilers, but
yeah,
I think that some of the elements are a little strange. I to say it, that.
I mean, I don't want to
okay.
spoil what the ending is, but there was a certain point where I thought I was going to go two ways. One way, which my girlfriend and I were like, is it really going to go that risky? But it went the safe way that I thought it was going to go. And what ends up happening, I was like, oh, okay. That was one of the things that I thought it was going to veer to. And when you see it, regardless of even if you guess the way it's heading, I think it still impacts you when you still see it play out, and that's when you know that it's not something that's relying on, say, a twist or anything like that. It's literally relying on the emotions, regardless of if you know what's going to happen. When you see it happen, it gets to you, especially with that song. If there's one thing that helped me out with enjoying this movie more and more, I've only seen it once, but when I first saw it, I was like, okay, that was a good movie. But I always go home, and usually what I stick with is the music. And there's that specific song at the end. I can't remember who sings it. But do you know who it is?
Yeah, Priscilla On is the name of the singer.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
That song is so good, and it elevates the movie more and more that you listen to it because you realize the heart of it, the emotion that the movie brings to you. Oh, man. It's a really good movie. That song is fantastic.
I agree. The other thing I thought was fantastic in the movie, as far as is the sound design, I thought was unbelievable. Like it sounded like she was stepping into water when she stepped into water. Like I know it sounds like a little detail, but it was just so lush, and it made it feel so like, I don't know, more than I don't normally notice details like that, but in that one I did. I mean, it was just like the grass sounded like grass, and
I mean, if you remember it, I think was it last year? It could have been 2 years ago. The Wind Rises did the same thing, where they were so detailed that they were all the noises, all the sound effects were with their mouths. So the planes were like, and so listening to it, you're like, that's an actual person doing the sound of the footsteps and the sound of the airplane. So it's like they always go that step ahead, which is why you appreciate those movies.
Yeah, they really do. And I guess I always relate to stories about characters that feel out of place in their own world. And so, this really hit a sort of a touchstone to me. There was one of my friends was like, but she had a good life. Why was she depressed? And I'm like, that's actually better that she had a good life, because that's the way depression works. Like depression isn't like cause and effect. It's just sometimes you just feel depressed. And I actually kind of liked that she has all the love around her. And that's the big lesson that she learns in the course of the movie, is that she has literally both across the veil and on Earth, she has all of this love in her life, and that's what she learns. And so I thought it was beautiful. I agree, it's not going to be up there in my top 10 Studio Ghibli or anything like that, but I thought if you're going to go out, which it looks like that's their last film,
I think they already confirmed another one.
Really?
Yeah, it's already confirmed. I don't know. I could probably search it up right now, but I just heard it about a week ago. They're coming out with something else, so it's like,
because I know they're finally releasing only yesterday next year, but that was made in 1991, but it's never gotten a U.S. release.
Yeah, then that's what it is. And Daisy Ridley's doing the voice. That was the news that I heard.
Oh,
it was her last film. Yeah.
Yeah, I've actually never seen that one, and so that'll be cool. But what I don't get is I don't understand why they weren't like nurturing new talent, because Miyazaki and Takahata and some of these other people are like in their 80s, so of course they're retiring. But I'm surprised there's not a new crop, ready to take on. But hopefully it won't be their last film.
Yeah,
because that would make me very sad, because I love. Do you have a favorite Ghibli?
I know it's very cliche, and I have a bunch of people telling me, no, you need to see more of them. And I know that I haven't seen enough of them, but for me, I still remember when I saw Spirited Away in theaters. Yeah. I still remember it. And I know to a lot of people, it is the one that won the Academy Award. It is the one that most people know because I think it has the biggest commercial success out of all of them. along with Ponyo, I think. But that's the one that stuck with me. I don't know. I really enjoy that one. I do still need to see more. I know that. I need to see the rest of them to be able to make a fair judgment, though.
I have a few that I still haven't seen, actually. So, and I'm a, junkie, so it takes a while. But I also, Spirited Away is also my favorite. Just because it was so inventive. I mean, every single frame, I was literally like, I have no idea what is coming next.
That's what a movie should do, just bring you into it. Yeah, definitely.
So few do. I mean, because I always say there's like kit movies. That's like, this is an action movie kit. And it's done really well for that kit. But then you have ones that are totally, like, they don't even need the kit. And but it doesn't happen that often.
True, doesn't, but...
And Spirited Away was one of them for me.
And then I think they released it on Blu-ray this past year, too, which is something worth checking out. Definitely.
So, okay. Yeah, and I think a lot of people probably haven't seen When Marnie Was There, so it's definitely worth getting on, renting or whatever from Vudu or wherever you have, or getting on if they have it on the red box. It is a little bit sad, but that's okay. Okay, so then we had in June Inside Out from Pixar. This directed by Pete Docter, and it has a 98%. So there was 2 reviewer Scrooges who didn't like it. Had a 98% as CG animation, and I gave it an A+. I love this film. I was just so moved. I never would have thought that a character named Joy, that's an emotion, would have such a character arc. That you'd see her go from this understanding that happiness is fun to this, like, by the end, she has this richer, deeper understanding of what it means to be joy. And I thought that blew me away, and I was so surprised by Bing Bong. And I thought that was great.
You know the scene. There was that when that scene happens.
Oh my gosh. It gets to you. Yes. And I really liked, again, sort of this theme of these allowing kids to sort of be depressed and deal with these, things realistically. I felt like Riley, where she's not feeling sadness and she's not feeling happiness. So she's just like this emptiness. And I thought it captured that really well. Like when she's getting on the bus, you just see this like flatness to her that is really like almost scary, I felt like. And so just the ending to me, I felt like was almost as satisfying as the beginning of Up, which is my favorite movie. Up is but that ending when she just says, I miss home. Oh,
yeah.
So good. and I thought it was funny too. Like I love Anger. Congratulations, San Francisco, you ruined pizza.
Yeah.
And things like that. And also just sort of little moments like when they're on the train and they see the deja vu, and they're like, oh, there's deja vu, and there's deja vu. I thought that was really, just a lot of things like that.
Yeah, the train of thought. That's what they were on.
Yeah, the train of thought. And and like the tiles of the facts and opinions gets dumped out. Yeah. And Joy's like, oh no.
That's probably my favorite joke in the movie.
He's like, that happens all the time.
That's good.
But I don't know. What did you after my gushing? What did you think of Inside Out?
I really enjoy. Would you say what is your favorite Pixar film?
Up is my favorite. It's my favorite movie. It's my favorite Pixar movie.
Followed by
Toy Story.
Where would you put this? Okay, so Toy Story is above this one still for you, correct?
Yeah.
For me.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Then this is third for me.
Third? Yeah, because for me it would be between Toy Story. I do put them as a trilogy. But Toy Story and Finding Nemo are my top 2. But I would say that this one is definitely up there. See what I did there? Yeah. But it was a movie that I know when it was screened at Cannes. And it got a standing ovation, and I was like, "There's no way it's going to be this phenomenal." And then people were watching it, and people went to the that early show where you paid extra.
I did,
like a 3-hour version of it, right? And was it worth it?
Oh, it was awesome because you got to see like the inside of Pixar and see all their crazy offices and like things I read about but I haven't actually seen. It was pretty cool. As an animation junkie. It was
And
really cool.
he said it was phenomenal to see all the behind the scenes and just to see it early. So I went in there. I was like, all right, let's do this. And I did. I enjoyed it. And it was that particular moment where Bing Bong comes in. And I was just waiting for that moment. And it's that specific moment in case that somebody hasn't seen it for whatever reason. I was just like, dang it, Pixar. Darn you, Pixar. But I loved a lot of the jokes that they had in there. I think the more that I watch it, the more I'll appreciate it, because I had some things where I was sort of like, I liked how well it's meshing these emotions inside and you're able to play around. But there were like moments where she was like, there was a scene where she's going down the stairs. She was like, no, I don't want to go. No, I do want to go. I was just like, when you're the depressing parts where she was like depressed, she didn't want to do something and then she didn't want, I was like, oh, they're trying to explain how when a kid is moody. But when she was like fighting herself, it's sort of, it was only that particular scene, and I have to see it again to really justify it, perhaps. But it became Osmosis Jones sometimes, and that was the only part where I was like, "Oh man, you have this fine line of being able to explain in a cartoony fashion, because it's even a different animation style, which I thought was awesome inside."
Sure.
And then having it be having that explain why we do things in the real world.
Yeah. Yeah, the point I would have eliminated, even though it's a funny joke, is the brain freeze, because I felt like the whole idea, because people are like, oh, Herman Heads thought of it first. I'm like, that is, to me, that's stupid, because Herman's head is about the brain, whereas this is about the emotions, which isn't the same thing. Like Herman's head, there's like a genius character, and I'm not that familiar with it, but it's there's a lust character, I think, and it's, to me, when it got into decision making, that's a different, it can be affected by emotions, but I liked it a little bit better when they weren't kind of crossing those lines between like the brain and the emotions.
Yeah, I was fine with it, because I know people are always just going to want to say, oh, it's like this, oh, it's like that, but there's not many, it's not bad to take an idea that's similar, or that there's something similar out there. It's how you execute it.
Yeah.
And Inside Out executed it a lot better. Herman's Head was a TV show, first of all, so it's a completely different medium in that sense. But so what if it is? Like, so what if, and I'm not even the biggest fan of Interstellar, but I know people who enjoy Interstellar. It's like they're tired of hearing the 2001 comparisons. Obviously, every space movie is going to be compared to every space movie before it, but it's what that space movie does. Just because this took a concept that's like it, okay, we're not going to deny anything around that, but it's not like it stole it. It took this idea and branched it out to make one of the best films of 2015. Simple as that.
I agree. I was just so moved by it, and I think the animation is beautiful, and like I said, I just was so surprised by that character arc, and I really do. Every time I watch it, I notice little things that I didn't notice before. Like the last time I saw it, I noticed that Joy is the only one that has a different color
around her.
Yeah, because that around her, but also her hair is blue. And I'd never noticed it before.
She has a haze around her that I believe the haze is also blue, which is when you realize at the end of the movie the artistic decision and why they did that, and how that color scheme also correlates with the story, which is genius. Because you realize at the end the sadness part, and sadness was blue, and I'm like, that's amazing. I thought that was cool.
Yeah. No, it's true. I mean, it's like that's always been a part of her, and she had to. Had to figure that out.
Realize it, just like just Riley herself had to realize.
Yeah. Well, and also I think it's beautiful, sort of the message that they're sending to kids, and I like this about Peanuts movie as well, is that it's okay to be sad. That sadness is actually, in a way, a good, healthy thing, and that that's great. That's a bold message, I think, to have in a film for children. And a lot of people have said to me, oh, it's not really for children, that it's too sad, it's too long, it's too whatever. But every child I know loves it. In my life, at least, loves it. And I live in Utah, so there's lots of kids at most movie screenings I go to, and kids are riveted. I went to see Hotel Transylvania 2. Kids were squirmy, they were walking around, they're moving. I saw Inside Out 4 times, and they were glued. The only time there was one little girl that had to be taken out with the clown. And other than that, like,
yeah,
clown's is a little scary. So, do you think it'll be nominated for Best Picture?
Ooh. Yeah, I think so. There hasn't been one that really.
I mean,
Brave wasn't nominated for Best Picture, but that was Brave.
No. Toy Story 3.
Toy Story 3
was,
and Up were, and they have the same critical reception. So, yeah, I do think so. I was looking at critics' lists, and some critics have very high up on their list. And if many of them are involved with the voting process, then yeah, it'll definitely get a nomination. Depending on what they do, sometimes they go 5, sometimes they go 10. I don't know what the heck when they go 9. I'm like, what?
Yeah,
just stick with the number.
So weird. It's so convoluted when you hear about how that's all done.
Maybe they'll do 11 feature films, 1 short film, and I don't know, like a title sequence up for Best Picture this year. I have no idea.
I guess real quick, what did you think of Lava, the short, before?
I enjoyed it. I do. But I don't know. I thought it was so cheesy. That was me. I did like the whole thing. I was like, I lava you. I get it. But then I was sort of like, this volcano can't turn around.
It's super corny, but I thought it was
corny
cute.
but cute. But I can't be like, oh yeah, this is hands down the best short of the year. No. But it's that idea where literally they were probably like sitting around there like, hey, I lava you. Oh, let's work on something. And then they came up with it.
Love Hawaii. I'm like that's why it says something that Aloha was one of my top 5 worst, because it had to be. I love Hawaii so much, so it had to be really bad for me not to love it. And but I loved the song, the Lava song, and I thought it was cute. But yeah, I agree. It's not one of their best, but I enjoyed it. Okay, so the next film is July 10th, and this is Minions. This is, of course, the spin-off, I guess, of the Despicable Me movies. It was directed by Kyle Balda and Pierre Coffin, who is also the voice of all of the Minions. It has a 53% on Rotten Tomatoes, and I gave it a C-, which I actually think was being somewhat nice. I really
lower it now live on the show.
I don't think it's that much better than Home or Strange Magic, but I guess a little bit better.
Now, do you like the Despicable Me movies 1 and 2?
I do, but I don't love them. I think that Megamind is honestly better than Despicable Me 1. They're very similar premises. And personally, I thought that Megamind was better. And so I was always kind of on that bandwagon. But the thing I always liked was the Minions. And so I was actually pretty excited about this film. And I didn't care for it. It didn't make... The biggest problem I had with it is that it didn't make me laugh. Like, I went to see it, and there were seriously like 2 rows of people in front of me that were, I wondered if they were drunk, because they were laughing so hard.
Probably. As long as they weren't kids.
No, they weren't kids. And I'm like, really? I don't get it. It didn't make me laugh one time. I just didn't think it was funny. And I felt like it kept bringing out all of these 1960s jokes. Yeah. And I'm like, why is that funny? I don't understand what's funny about the 60s. You know, it's like, that's not inherently funny.
Oh, yeah, and all the UK jokes, too?
Yeah, UK jokes.
I'm always up for a good UK joke, but these were pretty bad.
Yes. And, you know, they didn't really... It actually conflicted with the origin story that we get for the Minions in Despicable Me 1.
That they were made?
Yes. That they were made by Group.
They ignored that? They completely ignored that.
And that whole, like, the beginning was somewhat clever with the evolution of the Minions, even if it was inaccurate to the lore. But it was all in the trailer.
It was. It really was. You saw the whole thing there.
And they so woefully underused all of the talent. I mean, Sandra Bullock is wasted. I guess the only time I did laugh, the only thing I thought was funny in the movie was the fact that she wants to be a princess, but not just any princess. She wants to be the princess that she drew when she was like 8, and she has that drawing, and she gives it to the guy cutting her hair, and she's like, "No, I want to look like this." Like her. I thought that was kind of funny, that she wanted to not just be a princess, but the princess of when she was little.
Of paper, yeah.
I thought that was funny, but like Michael Keaton, he did not need to be in this movie.
Yeah,
no. And the whole VillainCon thing was just kind of a waste, and I don't know. Did you have any thoughts about Minions?
Wrap it up in one sentence. I compared this to, I enjoy the Minions. I'm not in that craze where I'm making memes and putting them up on Facebook, but I think the Minions are funny in the Despicable Me movies, because I explained it. The Minions in the Despicable Me movies were like a cinnamon roll. That the inside of the cinnamon roll, that's the good part. And the outside, it's okay, but it's that inside. They ruined it. It was not, you realize that it's better when it comes as a whole, because if you think, was it McDonald's? I used to work at McDonald's, and when they sold the Cinemelts, it was like, we'll take out the outside, so then it's just the nice, delicious middle, that's in the middle. But you don't realize when you take out the outside, that also becomes crust as well. And it became stale, actually, with the Minions, because this was a movie that tried to taking what people thought were going to like the most, and it made a lot of money. It made a lot of money. It is one of the highest grossing animated films of all time. It beat Toy Story 3.
Yeah, it's so sad, because it has such crossover appeal. It actually wasn't the top animated, like Inside Out actually beat it domestically for the year,
but
which
internationally,
I'm yay us, but yeah, because you think about it, I mean, they speak their word language.
Yeah.
The banana talk or whatever.
It's a mixture of 15 different languages, which is why there's always going to be a demographic that goes, hey, that's funny to me, because, and I think those would have probably been the funniest things when they say something, because I speak Spanish, so I can be like, that's the Spanish part. And then I can see which ones were Italian and things like that. So I see the appeal. Yeah,
it has huge crossover appeal. Plus it was marketed insanely. I mean, it was frustrating to me. We're going to talk about Shaun the Sheep next, but it was so frustrating because I feel like Shaun the Sheep is very similar. You have these cute, eccentric characters that don't talk on an adventure.
And it's better.
So much better. And it's just frustrating that you're just like, I wish we could have gotten some of that marketing. I wanted to tell the Aardman guys, go over to Illumination next. Have them market your movie, because they know what they're doing as far as marketing. I mean, that was everywhere. I mean, it was on life insurance ads. It was, stuff that had nothing to do with Minions at all. And I really think, though, it'll be interesting to see Despicable Me 3, whether that's as big a hit, because I think a lot of people were burned by it. I really do. I feel like it's a lot Shrek 3. Shrek 3 was one of the biggest. It was huge money, but everybody, 90% of people hated it. Shrek 3.
Mm-hmm.
And then Shrek 4, I think, suffered, and Puss in Boots kind of didn't do as well as they wanted after, because they'd been burned by Shrek 3.
Yeah.
So I kind of wonder. I'll be curious to see what happened, but I feel like almost nobody I know walks away loving that film, but they went and saw it. So.
Mm-hmm.
But so that's too bad. It really is. But okay. So now we'll talk about Shaun the Sheep, and that came out August 5th, and this was made by Aardman Animation, released by Lionsgate, who did a terrible job marketing the movie in the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
It was based on the animated TV show over in Britain, which is a delight if you ever get to see, and it's directed by Mark Burton, Richard Starzak, and the cool thing about this movie is that it only cost $25 million to make.
Really cheap.
Yeah. Yay. So they are actually even making a second one, because they made, I think, 100.
They passed 100. They passed 100 mark, and that's all they needed.
And so, that's awesome that they were able to keep the budget down. It actually is the highest rated on Rotten Tomatoes animated film of the year, believe it or not. It's got a 99%, and I gave it a B+ in my original review. I have to say, on a rewatch, I liked it. I liked it a little better than that.
More?
I think I'd
Yeah.
give it an A-.
You realize all the little like innuendos and the different. I love my favorite part. I love seeing movie references in animations, and I love the Shawshank references. I loved the X-Men references. It's just I don't know. I thought that was hilarious.
Silence of the Lambs.
The Silence of the Lambs one, yes.
Jail. That was really funny. Yeah, I really liked those, and I just thought it was really funny. I think the first time I saw it, I was with these kids. It's interesting because a lot of times I think, oh, I better go to an animated film with kids and get their perspective.
Mm-hmm.
But I found actually it's better for me to go by myself, because in general to go to movies by myself, but particularly because kids can be influenced by so many different things that don't have anything to do with the movie. And so, because I think they were just a little tired, they were a little worn out. They just weren't that into it. So that sort of made me feel like, well, maybe it really wasn't that good.
Yeah.
Maybe, and so I think that's why I gave it a B+. But it's just really funny. It made me laugh. Like the whole segment where he's like cutting hair. I thought that was so funny. I laughed. He's got his haircut. He's all on TV and everything, and it's just very sweet too. Like Shaun, he just wants a day off. Who can't relate to that?
Mm-hmm. He's just like, I'm tired of dealing with all of you sheep right here. I'm done with this. But yeah, I think the only part that I thought was a little was the dinner scene where they wouldn't like calm down.
Oh yeah.
I was like, okay, you guys are just building conflict here. But everything else, when they were hiding, pretending to be the sheep from the mattress advertising thing, and them trying to get away from the animal shelter guy. Genius.
Yeah, it was so funny, and yeah, it was really just kind of like a silent comedy.
Yeah, I agree.
So, and the animation, of course, is great from Aardman. It always is, and I just wish it only made $19 million in the U.S. $19 million.
We saw it.
That's just depressing, because I don't know what Aardman did that they just can't seem to have another hit. I mean, they had since Chicken Run. They make such great movies. I mean, Arthur Christmas was so good, and hardly anybody saw it. Or the Pirates, Bands of Misfits, nobody saw that, and that's really funny. And
I'm a huge Wallace and Gromit fan. I love The Curse of the Were-Rabbit.
It's so good.
But yeah, I don't know. Maybe it was putting Pitbull on the advertisement. I have no idea.
I don't know. I don't know. I just think they didn't have much luck with DreamWorks as their partner, but they had better luck at least. And then they had Sony as their partner, and that didn't seem to work out very good. And now they've had Lionsgate, and that didn't seem. So I don't know why people don't go see those movies. I was really surprised.
Disney will eventually buy out everyone, and
I want them to buy out Aardman, to be honest. Or seriously, Illumination, like get it, because they are good at marketing, and I just wish that more people saw their movies because they are just so fun.
I agree.
And as far as talking about movies that are made for kids, that are like Shaun the Sheep was made for little children. It does have a few little innuendo jokes, but for the most part, it's such a quality movie made for little kids. Okay, so all right. So then on the 7th, I'll just talk really quickly. There was Kahlil Gibran's The Prophet. This is August 7th. It's directed by Roger Allers, who co-directed The Lion King. It's traditional animation, and it had a 70% on Rotten Tomatoes, and I gave it a B-. So I'm about where they at, I think. And they take the poems of from this book, The Prophet, and they assigned 7 different animators to do animated shorts based on these poems. And the shorts are awesome. It's almost like a Fantasia kind of a feel. You have, I'll just read off, you have some of them, like Tom Moore, he did one, who did Song of the Sea and Secret of the Kells. He's great. Bill Plimpton, who's a somewhat well-known animator. Then there's a bunch of artists, Joanne Safar, Nina Paley, some of these different people that you'd probably recognize if you saw their art. that they did pieces, and they're beautiful and really different. Each one is very unique, and like I said, it does sort of feel like a Fantasia kind of property. But the problem is that it's sort of sandwiched, I guess, in this. They use this transition of this animated film about this prophet who is helping this little girl. He's finally getting released off of house arrest. And then there's this, and he's voiced by Liam Neeson. And then there's this woman who's voiced by Salma Hayek, who was a big champion of the whole project, I guess. And then Quinzane Wallace is the little girl. And the problem is that all of that transition between the shorts feels very Sunday school, feels very, like, I don't know, it just felt like when I was growing up at church, we'd watch these little animated Bible stories. That's really what it feels like. Mm-hmm. It's just really preachy and really not, it's just not good, in my opinion. The animation isn't that good. And I feel like in the animation community, we're really quick in the fandom, I guess, we're really quick to be like, it's 2D. It's amazing. It's 2D. And that's not true. It's not that great animation. It is 2D, but it's not that great. But I would recommend getting it on Blu-ray and just watching the shorts, because the shorts are great. So anyway, all right. So the next, and I think it does come out this month on Blu-ray, so look for that. And it's kind of cool because they made it on like $5 million budget, so that's kind of neat. Okay, then the next one we're going to talk about was released on September 25th is Hotel Transylvania 2. This was directed by Genndy Tartakovsky, who directed the original. It is 53% on Rotten Tomatoes, and I gave it a C. And which for me, in my world of grades, a C means it's average. It's good. Like, to me, C is right in the middle. And so I think it's better than a 53. I thought it was an okay comedy. I enjoyed it. I don't know. What did you think of Hotel Transylvania 2?
I didn't see it.
Oh, you didn't?
No.
Did you see the original?
No.
Oh, okay.
I didn't see either of the two, but I know the original was supposedly really good, and I know it held the record for September, I think, when it came out, which is why box office record, which is why they greenlit a sequel.
Yeah. I think they're both okay comedies. Like, they're not great, but compared to like the Pixels and the Ridiculous Six that Adam Sandler put out this year, they're like masterpieces of comedy. I know that's damning by faint praise. I don't know, but it's just it's a story about Dracula, and he has this hotel for monsters, and in this one, his daughter Mavis is now married and has a little boy, and they're not sure whether he is a monster or if he's not a monster. And one of the problems I had with it is that I felt like the ensemble cast, which really worked in the first one, that was funny. You had Fran Drescher, you had David Spade, John Lovitz, like all these people. It was divided up in this one, so you didn't get as much of that kind of feel. So there were a lot of people that only had one line or two lines. And Mel Brooks, he's really advertised in the trailer, but he's really only in the movie for about 10 minutes at the end, which I was like, why? Like, I don't understand that. And then I felt like they kind of wimp out at the end. The whole idea is this, like, we're promoting tolerance, whether you're a monster or you're not a monster. Like, we are going to accept you for who you are, you know. And then at the end, they kind of wig out on that, which was
just spoil it for me. Is he a monster?
You want me to spoil?
Yeah, please. Yeah, tell it to me.
Spoil the greatness of Hotel Transylvania 2 for
I'm not going to watch it, so.
I'm just kidding. He does get his fangs, which I thought was kind of a cop-out. But it's enjoyable. I think if you're looking for something to watch with your kids around Halloween, it's something to watch. And it is pretty well animated. The the colors, the character design, all of that is all done. Gendy Tartakovsky is a good animator, so he does a good job. Okay, so we've got 3 more. Then the next one is the Peanuts movie.
Woo.
And that was November 6th, directed by Steve Martino, and this was done by Blue Sky. And I have not been a big fan of Blue Sky. Their material, I mean, the real movies, I think they're okay, but I just haven't really loved anything that they have done, and I really hated the Lorax a lot. I guess the Lorax was Illumination. Never mind. But I really didn't like the Lorax. But Steve Martino directed Horton Hears a Who, which of all the terrible Dr. Seuss adaptations, that one is the least terrible.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I don't know. I was really skeptical going into this, and I thought it was so sweet. It has 86% on Rotten Tomatoes, and I gave it an A+. I loved it. I just thought it captured all of the charm of the original specials. It kept Charlie Brown as this sort of conflicted. It didn't make him hip or cool or trying to be something modern, which I really appreciated. And I just thought they got the tone perfect, and I loved the animation so much. You know, this hybrid of the flatness of 2D with the depth and the realism of CG. It was this new thing I'd never seen, aside from in shorts. I'd never seen anything that looked the way that the Peanuts movie looked. And so it really, really excited me in that way. And I just loved it. I thought it was so great to see. So I don't know, what did you think of the Peanuts movie?
No, I agree. I would actually say that it's up there with Inside Out. As much as that I enjoyed it the first time that I watched it, I do think Inside Out is more complex. But this one was subtly complex with what he was going through. But I wasn't expecting to like it that much. But I love this movie.
Mm-hmm.
That's simple as I could put it. It was like a time capsule. They went and they brought back the same exact feeling from the old cartoons, and they were able to bring it again here. Just modernize at least the animation. But they didn't modernize and add all that music that was in the trailer that I thought they were going to add, and that was a good part about it.
Yes.
I also liked how they actually kept the original voice clippings and the samples from Snoopy, and I believe Woodstock as well. But no, yeah, overall, I thought it was a great movie.
From Steve Martinez, who has died, they were able to still have him voice Snoopy, which was awesome. And yeah, a lot of people complained, it's not original, it's not. But again, kind of getting back to what we were talking about before, I've heard that with Star Wars as well. Yeah. But
it's a reintroduction to this new generation.
It is. It's a reintroduction.
30 years.
And it's a they took what we loved, and then they did a few little. I felt the same way about Cinderella. Mm-hmm. That. To me, I loved Cinderella versus like Maleficent, which changed everything. I didn't like it. This, it kept all the things I liked, but then did a few little things new and different, and had a different style and a different visual style. And so I'm fine with that. I don't need everything to be super original. Like that's not a. If I expected every movie to be super original, I would only like 2 movies in my whole life. I mean, maybe 10, mm-hmm. But I don't know. I love the fact that they got actual kids to do the voices. It's awesome. They didn't have I don't know, the kids from Modern Family or something like that. They got actual, sort of untrained, normal, natural sounding kids. Mm-hmm. Thought that was great. So yeah, I loved it. I loved the music. I think that was great. It just made me so happy. I immediately, I've actually seen it 3 times because I kept wanting to take different people. Yeah. I took my nieces. I took, you got to see it. It's so cute. Okay. Then the next. And it just makes me excited for maybe my dream is that maybe I think it's Waterhouse is his name, the guy behind Calvin and Hobbes, that maybe he saw what the Schultz family did with Peanuts movie, and I'd be like, maybe that would be my dream come true to have a Calvin and Hobbes movie, but we'll see.
It's not gonna happen.
It's not gonna happen, but wouldn't that be awesome? Okay, so then in November 25th, we had The Good Dinosaur. This is Peter Sohn directing, and it has 76 on Rotten Tomatoes. I am higher on this than most people, and I gave it an A. I really loved it. To me, a lot of people are like, oh, it was just copying The Lion King. I didn't really see that except for one scene. To me, it really was bringing back the feel of old school Disney. It felt a lot like Dumbo to me, and Bambi. And that's the ones that I kept thinking of. Just sort of these stories. The Dumbo part of it, where you have this unlikely duo within Dumbo. You have Dumbo and Timothy Q. Mouse. And the Bambi part of it is just sort of this, this character that's sort of nature is their foe, sort of the foe, and you see the journey of a character as they grow up. Mm-hmm. And even a little Pinocchio, where Pinocchio, the whole point of that movie was to learn to be honest. In this, the point is to learn to conquer his fears. And so to me, I just felt like it was so old-fashioned, and so that was really refreshing and different, and something I hadn't seen from Pixar before. And it's so beautiful. The backgrounds, just this photorealism that they were able to achieve, and I thought the movie had real heart, and I was just really emotionally invested in it. And I thought the voice performances were all good, and I just really liked it. I was really surprised it didn't do better.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. What did you think of it?
Well, I know this was a movie that they had to scrap everything. They not only had to change the voice actors, but because they changed the voice actors and switched directors, that they also had to. The first thing was that they switched the story, but because they switched the story and the age of Arlo, they had to switch everybody else's age, which meant a new cast and stuff like that, which is incredible for a movie, a big budget movie like that, to go through all those changes and still make a film that's presentable. I think is great. I know people complained a lot about that it was a lot like everything else, and I saw several things from The Lion King, like the one particular scene in the beginning. There was stampedes. There was what was clearly reminiscent of the hyenas from The Lion King. But as we said, just because it's not original doesn't mean it's a bad thing. And I did enjoy the movie. I enjoyed it, probably not as much as you, but I know way more than a lot of people, because I had a great time with the film, but at the end realized, yeah, it's a good Disney movie, but this is Pixar. And I think that there was a different standard for Pixar, and that's why people were more harsh on it. Because like you described it, it was back like the classic Disney films, but people don't expect that from Pixar. And I think that's why they didn't like it as much, because the most heartwarming moment in this movie, would you say it compares to that moment in Inside Out?
No. That's I said in my review, I said the biggest flaw in this film is coming out the year of Inside Out.
Yeah.
That's the biggest mistake they made.
With all the delays and everything that they had there. But I did enjoy it. And I think it is some of the best animation I have ever seen with the natural settings. And I know that the reasoning why they did that juxtaposition of having such beautiful animation and then a cartoony looking dinosaur was for them to be like, he's out of his element. And I got that, and I enjoyed it for a bit until I realized, no, you're showing me water that looks like it's legitly real. Then you're showing me this cartoony, goofy looking thing, and it juxtaposed itself to the point where it kind of became distracting, because it was like, do I admire one or do I admire the other? But nonetheless, the animation was still very beautiful. I thought it was an enjoyable film all the way up to the end when you see, a certain scenario that he's put in.
You don't like the ending?
No, I did. I did enjoy the ending, except because I know a lot of people have been calling this Finding Arlo as well, but in reverse, it's him finding his family, which is sort of made me thinking like, well, why weren't they out looking for him? Or what were they wondering? Or I thought the fact was that he needed to put his weight or they were going to all die. Well, he's gone and so is the dad. So I'm like, I thought he was going to go home and nobody was going to be there. because it's like, you guys said you couldn't survive without the kid. Well, the kid and the dad are gone.
It's
but
true.
no, I agree. I think it is an enjoyable movie, but you can see how it's incredible that they restarted everything and was still able to make a film. But what they ended up releasing was not Pixar material, and I think people were quick to jump on that.
Yeah.
And like you said, you gave us Inside Out. This is fine and all, but it's not. You gave us Inside Out, and they weren't happy with that.
Yeah, I mean, I think even Disney wasn't. I think they could have done more. Disney has a bad habit of releasing a film and then jumping away from it very quickly. And like, I don't know, example from when I was growing up, I love the movie Rescuers Down Under. It's an excellent film. And it didn't do all that well. And then they pulled all marketing and they just kind of pretended like it didn't even exist. And I don't know why they do that. I feel like if they just had a little bit more sort of faith and they just kept, a little bit more effort, I think that it's a quality film. Like, I don't know. But I'm not saying it's perfect, but overall, I just found it refreshing how old-fashioned to me it felt. And just that old school Disney feel I liked. And I just thought the animation, it didn't bother me, the cartoonish dinosaur on the photorealism background. I don't know, that didn't bother me, but I definitely can see, like, my biggest complaint with the film was just that there are definitely some big moments of peril that are pretty intense for little kids. For 5 and under, it's pretty scary moments, like with the pterodactyls, and they're pretty mean. I know it was hard for my niece is 6, and she had to be taken from the theater once. She was pretty scared. But she gets scared. Even the storm scene. And my niece who's 9, she said, I would have liked it, except for, I guess, spoiler alert, except for the dad.
An incident that
the dad dying. She didn't like that. She's like, he should have lived. Like, yeah, that's Disney for you. They say the Disney orphanage is large.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I feel a little like, I don't know. I just feel like it's better than it got credit for. But I'm not saying it's perfect, but I did like it. So I'm glad you enjoyed it as well. And I think it's one that people will go back to. I think that I wouldn't be surprised if it becomes sort of a random weird sort of favorite of some people down the road, like 10 years, be like, this is my weird favorite Pixar movie, because it's so different than the rest of them. Okay, so then we only have one more, and this is the one I haven't seen. This will be released December 30th in some markets, Anomalisa, and it's coming to my theater on the 22nd of January. And it is directed by Charlie Kaufman, and I haven't reviewed it, so I don't have a score. It has a 96% currently on Rotten Tomatoes. It's stop motion, and I'm not sure whether I am going to see this because of the strong adult content. I do tend to see adult animated films, but I don't know. I read that if it was live action, it would be NC-17. Do you think that that's too strong? Or do you think that's true?
Right. There's a particular scene that automatically gets you an NC-17 rating. If you know of movies like Blue Valentine. That movie, this is without spoiling anything, or if you haven't seen that movie, but if you've seen that movie or you know why it got an NC-17 rating, that happens in this movie, but in stop motion.
Yeah. So I know that you loved it. So why don't you tell us a little bit about it and why you loved it?
Now, pretty much, I don't want to spoil the whole thing, but this was a Kickstarter project that Charlie Kaufman, and it's important that you know who Charlie Kaufman is if you haven't seen his films. He's a writer who did adaptation. He's done Being John Malkovich, and then he made his own films, one of them being Synecdoche, New York.
That's his last movie, right?
That was the last movie that he made a feature film for, I believe. But obviously, he likes going the independent route. So this was actually a play that he made. It was a sound play. People went to the theater, but there was nothing in front of them, and it was just voices that they were hearing. And I really don't want to spoil it. There's a humor aspect to it, which I find hilarious, but it's better for you to experience first and foremost. But all you need to know is this was a Kickstarter project by Charlie Kaufman and an animator who's worked on things like the Community stop motion episode. They came together. Dan Harmon is the person who produced it. And it's just a story of this guy who's struggling with depression. So it continues on that theme, except he's not a child. But he is a customer service specialist, and he's in Cincinnati to give a speech. And then things go from there where he starts losing his mind. And I think it's a film that isn't as strong as a lot of other Kaufman movies because this dude is deep, but he still remains very thematic with elements such as, dealing with what is life and what are we as humans and what's the point of being happy and what's the point of this and that. And he really covers it here. And I think stop motion was the best way to adapt this. I know that he just wanted it to be a sound play, but doing it in stop motion, beautiful work. And seeing the behind the scenes, incredible. And it's a movie that is an adult animation. This is not for kids. It is not even for teenagers. It is, unless it's for people who are reflecting on life, because it's a Kaufman film, and that's what he does. And it does have adult content. There is images that are sexual. There is language that is heavy. There's a lot of things like that. It deals with themes such as cheating and different things. So it's a movie, like you said, if it was live action, it would be probably NC-17 for a specific scene that happens.
Do you think that content was needed in the film, or do you think it was? Do you think that it really made it special, or do you think you could have?
The one particular scene that would have made it. I mean, if you don't like seeing movies where people swear, then you either are going to see it or not. But the swearing in this movie was to show really how grumpy the dude is. Mm-hmm. The nudity in the film, because there is, like, he's taking a shower and they'll show you him taking a shower. You can see that as being necessary. I was like, it's funny because he's an animated, he's claymation. Well, not claymation, but he's stop motion. And there's an element to it that I said in my review, which was they do that scene on purpose. Like, if you're a person who doesn't like seeing sexual scenes, this is not for you, and you it won't justify it for you. But what Kaufman does is that he likes breaking the fourth wall, but not literally. He likes breaking the fourth wall emotionally. So if you're seeing, let's say, a sexual scene with stop motion figures, you're gonna laugh, right? It's gonna feel awkward. You're like, this is weird. But it's you feeling that for the medium and allowing you to feel what the characters are feeling with each other. It's really confusing, but there's a genius to it. So again, if you don't like that type of content, I would say don't go watch it. Maybe read up on it once the whole synopsis comes out so you still get a feel of it. Look at clips so you get a feel of the movie. But it is kind of strong when it comes to those specific scenes that are, a little bit too over the top.
Because I can relate. I have seen a lot of the adult. I've seen Waltz with Bashir, and if you've seen that one,
great film.
Yeah, I've seen The Congress, which had some adult content. Persepolis is another one that has a little bit of adult content. And I think that it's a good thing for the medium in general, because I think it does remind people that animation is just a tool to tell a story. It's not only for children, even though it's dramatically 99% are either family films or children's films. There are good adult animated films as well, and so I'm actually really happy, and I hope it does well. I still just haven't decided whether I'm going to see it or not. I don't know. I just can't decide. But I might wait and see it on, get it on Blu-ray and just skip a couple scenes. Feel like that might be a good compromise.
Yeah, I think that'd be the best way.
I really want to see it.
Because the scene in question is like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So.
And so anyway, we'll see. But I really wanted to get your perspective on it. It looks beautiful.
Oh, yes, it is. And it also helps to tell the story.
I guess the dolls were like, I read, they're like 12 inches, which is like big for stop motion. Like normally they're much smaller, which is interesting. And they created, I guess, like a whole, I love stop motion.
Yeah.
I just think it's incredible what they do.
You'd love what they do here. They catch reflections off of the dolls, like the reflection of the other person. So to frame that and light that,
oh man,
a lot of effort.
Amazing. And I've heard the music is really great as well. I forget who it was, but I've heard it's really good. So, okay, well, that is all of the films. So out of all of those, which ones do you think will get the if there's 5 spots for the animated feature film Oscar, and which one would you give it to? Which one do you think's the best of the year?
I think Inside Out will win it. For sure. And I think Inside Out may actually get the nomination for Best Picture because it is the better animation in general, but story-wise, I think Anomalisa is the deepest. But yeah, for my top 3 is Anomalisa, Peanuts movie, and Inside Out. I think Inside Out will be the one to take the award. It's Pixar. It has more of the animated feel to it, and I think that's what a lot of critics are leaning towards. But I do hope that Anomalisa gets some love in the award circuits, especially in the Oscars. But definitely Inside Out.
I think it will definitely get nominated for sure. And so I think the 5 nominees, the only big question for me actually is if Good Dinosaur will get nominated. I thought first it was a lock, but with all of even the reviews, it has 76%. But I feel like most of those reviews are kind of like, yeah, it's good. Whereas, so I wouldn't be surprised if when Marnie was there, sneaks in.
I hope it does.
It's the last Studio Ghibli film. It's great film. It's beautiful. The animation is so good. So I wouldn't be surprised if it sneaks in there and it ends up being when Marnie was there, Shaun the Sheep, Inside Out, Anomalisa, and Peanuts movie are your 5 nominees, and that's a pretty good 5. I think those are good films. So overall, it certainly looks like it's stronger than what we're getting next year.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess you have Zootopia and Moana, which I'm excited for, and Finding Dory. The only thing I'm worried about with Finding Dory is I'm worried sort of a Minions, where you give a side character.
And she might work better as a side character than a main. Yeah,
that's my only worry, but it's Pixar, so I have confidence in them. To me, I know people hate Cars 2, but I don't think they've made a terrible movie. It's just me. I think all of their movies are enjoyable on some level, but they haven't made a Hero of Color City yet.
The Legends of Oz.
Legends of Oz. They haven't made a Legends of Oz. Thank goodness. So anyway, so that'll be interesting next year. There's the new film by Laika Studios coming out called Kuba and the Two Strings, which I am so excited for. The trailer was great. And you have Kung Fu Panda 3, which is a January release, and the trailers have not been great.
The first teaser was funny. I chuckled at it. And then after I was like, okay, maybe it's just that scene.
But hopefully it'll be good. Hopefully it'll be good. 2 was so good, so I'm optimistic. Same director as 2. So anyway, thanks so much for doing this with me. I really appreciate it. And do you want to just tell people where they can find you?
Oh, yeah. I am Art from the AtZ Show. You can just search it up, the AtZ Show. And on my show, I do things such as Cineclash, which is every Wednesday. It's movie trivia, do movie reviews, explain videos, and things like that. And there's a lot of things that I'm starting up for 2016, organizing everything. So, yeah, just head on over to the AtZ Show if you want to talk about movies with me.
I'll put a link in the description section so you can go over there, and you can follow him on Twitter. You can also follow me on Twitter at SmilingLDSGirl, and also Rachel's Reviews here on this channel. And I have my blog called 54 Disney Reviews, where I have reviewed all of the Disney canons and all of the films except for Anomalisa that we talked about today. So, again, thanks so much, and
thank you.
Yeah, we'll look forward to seeing how 2016 works out.
Hopefully it's good.
All right. I'll talk to you later.
Take care.